The opinions expressed in this show belong to the person expressing them. They do not purport to reflect the opinions or views of Rancher or any other entity.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of Coffee and Cloud Native. My name is Adrian Goins. My teleprompter's not working. There it is. Welcome, teleprompter, to the show. So yeah, welcome to today's episode of Coffee and Cloud Native, the show that shares news and interesting content related to Kubernetes, Cloud Native, and other nifty technology. My name is Adrian Goins, and my button for my title is there today. Does it work? Oh, it doesn't work. Why doesn't it work? It doesn't work because I need to be on this screen. Now does it work? Yay! That's my old title. I updated the title this week. Okay, so I'll explain why all of this is all over the place in a second. But first of all, I just want to tell you that I'm excited to be here with you today. And and I see we have people in the chat, and that's very good. If you're watching live, consider following or subscribing to the channel, and I have a button for that too. There it is. And if you're watching in the future, please give the video a thumbs up so the YouTube algorithm shares it with other people. Join the free community site and the Discord server. Links to that are in the video description, and today they will not be scrolling across the bottom of the screen for reasons I will explain in just a moment. Live chat happens in Discord with a bot that relays between YouTube and Twitch. Come hang out with us either during the show or after, because really the Discord server is where like the meat of everything happens. So let's take a moment and say hello to people today. Who do we got here today? Scroll down and scroll back. Nuno! Nuno is sneak watching during a meeting. James P., good morning. Mo Grady, OFS, Steve G., Mladen, Ariel. No, Ariel says my title today is Master of 100 Episodes. Today is episode 100. That's absolutely crazy. I went back and watched episode 1 a couple of weeks ago. You should go and do that. It's like dark outside, and I'm like, hello? Is anybody watching? None of you are watching. But there was actually somebody who was watching, which was really cool. And now all of you are here with me every day. It just warms my little heart. Whitebot says, yay, sound. All right, who else? Ian P. Frank, old man with a hat. Wojtek. Rob. Chrysalis. 4-bit integers? Really? Oh, Nuno wants to know why Trufflebot is capped to 16 items per day. Trufflebot loads 15 items for the show plus one tool of the day. We never get to all 15, but all 15 of them go out as tweets. So what we get to on the show goes out, and then everything else goes out as an espresso shot. Okay, let's talk about the nonsense, the madness, the crazy. I got fed up with Mimo Live. Mimo Live is the streaming software I've been using for a while now, and it's really good, except when it's not. And it's like the things that they do are things that nobody else does. So I can do all kinds of crazy animations and API stuff and like coolness and things. But then it just does stupid things like randomly desyncs the audio so that it's like off by 1/5 of a second for no reason. Saves file names or saves a recording with different file names. Anyway, there's just little things that it does that I just got sick of on Saturday. And so I decided to rebuild the entire thing in Streamlabs OBS. Because Streamlabs OBS also has an API. It's not as well documented as Mimo. It's not a REST API. It's actually a WebSockets API. The result of that being that I spent the weekend with Node-RED, who I love. I love Node-RED. Steve wanted to know what I was doing with it. So I have a Stream Deck. I love my Stream Deck. It's a Stream Deck XL. I actually have 2 of them. I have one here. I have one in the main streaming site, and then my old Stream Deck Lisa has on her desk, Wifebot. And I like to be able to do things with buttons. But I like more complicated logic than just like activate a scene. Like I want to be able to swap things in, change text, do a bunch of other stuff. I was doing this with Mimo via Keyboard Maestro on a Mac. So the Stream Deck would trigger something in Keyboard Maestro would do some stuff, make a decision, and then post something off to the Mimo Live API. But Keyboard Maestro's control flow logic is pretty rough, and it's really hard to troubleshoot. Whereas Node-RED is, well, stuff in JavaScript, and it's just dope. So this is what I wrote Saturday and Sunday. Basically, we've got a connection to the Streamlabs OBS WebSocket that's listening there. And then upon connection, it does a bunch of stuff. And then I also discovered this amazing, what's it called? Where's this other window? This guy wrote Stream Deck WS. Stream Deck WS. Oh my gosh, I don't know what's going on here. Just opened in another window. I don't want to switch to that tab. I want you to take me to this. Come on, Firefox. Don't be, you know what. All right, so this guy, if you use a Stream Deck, and if you use Keyboard Maestro, this guy wrote this amazing thing. That basically turns, it creates a WebSocket proxy on your Stream Deck. So you can have a button on your Stream Deck that's actually going to talk to a WebSocket connection, and then you can pull that into Node-RED and do a bunch of stuff with it. He's got a whole bunch of event stuff. Obviously, there's like key down and key up, but he's also got like will appear and will disappear, so you can actually trigger things based on buttons that are about to appear, like if you're switching screens on the Stream Deck. It's crazy. So with this and Node-RED and Streamlabs OBS and a bunch of coffee and screaming and struggling through documentation, I created something that now allows me to, like flip through things and basically do everything that you saw me doing on the show last week. That's the thing. All of this results in no change in your user experience. But man, it's really cool. For example, we have that little widget down there in the corner that tells us we have 14 people watching on Twitch and 21 people watching on YouTube. Hi, everyone. Okay. I think I have some other news for today. Oh yeah, it's the 100th episode. That's cool too. You may actually see zombies outside my window. They're zombies. Give them a break. And then I also want to say, check the links for today's show when I post them later, because when I was going through all the stuff that's going to be on the show, there are some super cool things that we're not going to have time for. But I know sometimes those things just get lost. Check them out because they're going to be really cool. So let's get started, shall we? So the collector bots have gathered candidates for today's show and scored them from 1 to 5 coffees. I feel like I'm missing something in the chat because I don't have sound on. Let's turn that on. And let's minimize that, and let's go look at the chat. Zombies! They're... Yeah, they look exactly like that. They're cleaning the deck, and they started painting the front deck, and they're going to paint the back deck, but because they painted the house with this white paint with granite, it's all over the deck. So they got to, because I don't know why they don't just put plastic down, but they don't. They would rather paint and make a mess and then clean the mess later. So that's what they're doing. Thank you, Captain Justin. Captain Justin says, congrats on 100. Okay, so where was I? Trufflebot has scored a bunch of stuff from 1 to 5 coffees, corresponding to a 75 to 100% probability of being interesting content. He'll post them one at a time in Discord. I'll load them up. And one of the things, like, you might be saying, well, why don't you just use the Streamlabs thingy on your phone that just works? That's a great question. I could totally do that. But because I have all of these different components running, imagine, instead of me typing AB next in the chat for Trufflebot to show the next thing, I can make that a button on the Stream Deck. So I press that on the Stream Deck, it goes to Node-RED, I need to add an HTTP listener to Trufflebot, and then I can fire off commands to Trufflebot from here, and the show just kind of magically happens without me having to be like, which is what you get every 30 seconds, well, whatever, every time I move to the next item. That's why I want to do stuff with Node-RED and all this other whatever nonsense. Anyway, anyone who's watching can vote on them in the zombie channel in Discord, and the final scores are shown when we move to the next item, and then the total rating for all items on the show, blah, blah, blah. It goes back into the machine learning model. And I'm tired of talking about this. Let's just get started. How is Trufflebot doing today? All right, we've got some weird stuff some weird stuff on the show. This one works, but when I was trying to play with it this morning, I couldn't get it to work because the documentation sucks. Because it's written by somebody who's really smart, who's like, I built a thing, I know how to use it. If you want to use it, go figure it out. Whatever. Basically, there's a domain, dnskv.com, and through text records and stuff, you can store information there by simply querying it. So if I were to query, like, I was playing this morning with cncn.dnskv.com, so that becomes like the key. And if I were to say, like, make a query, somebody just beeped at me. Kai says, well said about how the docs and how it's built. It's a full-on old-school hacker. Yeah, it is. So if I were to query, like, starts at 730.cncn.dnskv.com, it would store starts at 730 as the value for the key CNCN. And then when somebody else queries cncn.dnskv.com, they'll get something like live at 7:30. And I got it to kind of work, but I couldn't get it to work reliably. And then I realized if I spent more time on it, I wasn't going to be able to do anything else for the show. But it's still cool. Yeah, it's still cool. There's a Python script for it. Dust. That was the mute button that I programmed this weekend. Where is DNS message? If you go to this /DNSMSG, there we go. There's a Python script for it that also doesn't work because there's no document. I mean, it works, but there's no documentation for it. But this is a Python script. It looks like you can do like dynamic keys and channels, and you can store lots of data in here. If you go back to Hacker News and look for this, because it just came on Hacker News last week, there's a whole conversation about the amount of data that you can store within a domain, not just here where this guy's making it available for free, but like on Route 53. And I think that if you used all of the hosts and the maximum data value for every host in a domain on Route 53, you can store something like 600 megabytes of data, including a 35% overhead that comes from base64 encoding it. Like, this is one of those things that doesn't need to exist, but is really cool. And there's also a conversation in the Hacker News thread about like how Kubernetes is storing things in DNS, and the value of DNS is just a rock solid tree-based protocol for storing things. And Kai says, yes, using Route 53 as a database, just like Corey Quinn says we should. Ariel says, let's migrate to that from WhatsApp. Yes. All right, so DNSKV, very cool. Not enough for me to make it a tool of the day, simply because I couldn't show you how it works. But it's still very cool, I think. What do you guys think? You guys all give it a 4. Okay, you think it's pretty cool. One of you thinks it sucks. That's okay. Next, see, right there. Wouldn't a button to just be boink be awesome? And then it would I can make it automatically load in the browser. I thought this article was really interesting. It compares the two types of triggering it compares two types of triggering and then talks about why Kubernetes uses level triggering. Scroll. Basically, you have two types of triggers. You have edge triggering and level triggering. Edge triggering basically says, where's the other scroll for that? Edge triggering is there's a trigger. You can't see my mouse. That's a shame. There's a trigger and then a rise and then a trigger for it to fall. Whereas level triggering says the trigger is in a current low state and then the trigger is in a high state and then the trigger is in a low state. So it's a subtle difference between the two that may not be obvious in all situations. But the article continues to explain why Kubernetes uses level triggering. And let me scroll down to, it's actually, it's really cool. It's Oh wow, I had a word and then it went away. Approachable? It's approachable. It's not crazy. Like, it's not super high tech, even though these are kind of high tech concepts. But it goes on to show, like, with basic math and then reconciliation. And here it shows how if you only went with edge triggering instead of level triggering, you might run into a state, because reconciliation takes a while, where you have one pod and you want 5 pods. And so you say, give me 5 pods, and it's going to take it, a minute or whatever to get there. But let's say that partway through that process, you say, oh, give me, 1 pod again. Well, then it'll say subtract 3. And so you might, with edge triggering, end up in a situation where instead of going from 1 and then coming back to 1, or going from 1 and coming back to 2, math, you might end up, like, if it starts to change at 3, you might end up dropping down to 0. Now, obviously, this is not how Kubernetes works, but it shows why Kubernetes as a system uses level triggering instead of edge triggering. Really neat article about, some non-intuitive aspect of what's going on inside of, scaling and Kubernetes state reconciliation between the actual state and the desired state. How many of you use Ansible? Do you see how my window's wider? That's an advantage of using Streamlabs OBS. Previously, I was like this, and I would be like, how many of you use Ansible? Like, hello, I do. Now I can be like, oh yeah, I use Ansible. But I don't use Ansible for bootstrapping and other such nonsense. In fact, honestly, I don't use Ansible very much anymore. I use it on my non-Kubernetes nodes, or I use it to update packages and operating systems on Kubernetes nodes themselves, but I don't do anything with Kubernetes. This is an article on using Ansible with Rancher to bootstrap nodes and automatically add them to clusters or create new clusters. And it starts in the idea being that if you want to spin up a cluster for QA, Ansible is a great way to do that. Lots of people use Terraform, but I don't know, it's like we're in different camps. You could use Terraform for this, okay? You could use Ansible for this. Like, what if you use Ansible, but all you can find are docs for Terraform? Well, now you have docs for Ansible too. So here's a flowchart for creating a cluster. Ansible's dynamic inventory is a really cool feature, being able to figure out what your hosts are based on queries to something that knows that answer. I used to use that with a cloud provider to understand the environment when it was changing, and then select things based on labels and stuff. Dynamic inventory is really neat. So here he adds dynamic inventory for a vSphere environment, such that they can actually determine, is there a host? If not, provision one before you go off and try and build a cluster on it. That seems like a good preliminary step. And then, expanding it from there. Now, he says the whole process took about 20 minutes. 17 minutes for the Kubernetes cluster bootstrapping, plus 3 minutes for post-operation tasks. That sucks. That's a long time. I know that RKE takes around 10 minutes to build a cluster. So they have other stuff going on here. The article talks about using RKE templates so that you get the ability to just basically clone nodes according to pre-configured or predefined specifications. But the article continues, because 20 minutes is unacceptable, and shows how to do the same thing with K3S. And at that point, they did a comparison, and they showed that the entire process with K3S, including that 3-minute post process, took 6.5 minutes versus 20 minutes. That's an improvement. So here you are, using Ansible and Rancher and RKE and K3S for doing stuff. Oh, this next one's crazy. Crazy. This is crazy. If you use RDS, okay. 7777 is a CLI program that lets you connect to your RDS database via a local port on your own machine in seconds. Seconds. How does it do it? It spins up a Fargate instance container, I don't know what you call them, but whatever. It spins up a Fargate thing, node, object, which they're Firecracker VMs. No, they're not Firecracker VMs. They're whatever. They're fast. So it spins them up really fast, creates an SSH tunnel. When you're done, it tears it all down. And it's just crazy. So rather than having an EC2 instance as a Bastion host or a jump box, you just run this and then you can use all of your tooling locally because you're just connecting to local port 7777. It's forwarded over SSH to your RDS instance, and it's pretty dope. That costs a little bit of money, €9 if you want to use it for yourself, €50 if you want to use it for everyone in your team. But unlike some solutions that want to charge you $25 a month just to forward an HTTP port, not naming any names, I think a solution like this, well, even though it's limited to RDS stuff, I think it solves a really significant problem in a really cool way. And they totally deserve to make a little bit of money off of it. But like, come on, €9? That's great. That's totally reasonable. That's like, I don't know, 3 coffees or something. So 7777, my friends. Like, what's next? I don't know. Next up, we have... Last month was policy month. This didn't make it in time because it was released while the show was on pause. This is from Buoyant, who create Linkerd and shows how to use Cilium with Linkerd. Cilium, specifically Cilium Layer 3 and Layer 4 network policies. Now, Cilium also does have Layer 7 policies. Linkerd does not yet support Layer 7 policies, but will in the future. That's cool. But for now, Layer 3 and Layer 4 policies are totally fine. So this is a walkthrough on how to utilize Cilium network policies with Linkerd. There's not really much more to say besides that. There it is. So hello to Buoyant, who apparently make Linkerd awesome. Okay. They have Buoyant Cloud coming out. I didn't know about this. Sign up for early access. Maybe they'll give me early access. So yeah, Buoyant Cloud is supposed to be something that allows you to monitor and see everything that's going on in your clusters based on observability data coming out of Linkerd. That's neat. We're going to have time to get to... This is where like the cool stuff came in 953. Another one that appeared while the show was on pause. Look at those adorable little turtles. Did you know that turtles have nerve endings in their shells? Like, they're not just shells. They're actually, like, hard skin. They can feel when you pet them. That bottom turtle is crying. This is about... Okay, this... We're just going to run through this really fast. This is about how to get stuff running at the edge and that you need a triplet of a Kubernetes cluster, some kind of operating system, and some kind of hardware. So for the lightest weight edge deployment, they recommend K3S. Kudos, cool. Some kind of operating system. Somebody was talking about K3OS, and that's why I put this on the show. K3OS is not ready yet for you to start using it, though you can. But it's not going to be the only solution for that. These guys, Zedata, have created a thing called Eve that is designed to be a lightweight operating system for lightweight edge deployments. They say that Eve is to edge what Android is to mobile. When I think of Android and mobile, I think insecure, not updated, and definitely not my first choice in mobile operating system, but, I don't think that's what they meant. Do not click the... Well, you can click the check out the full discussion link. That's going to take you to a webinar page for a webinar that's coming up, or that happened. I guess it already happened. So you can register and then you can watch it again. But if you click on this LF Edge link here, that'll take you to LF Edge, which is kind of like the CNCF for I don't know, Edge stuff. I don't know what Linux. I don't know who's behind LF Edge. Anyway, they have a really cool webpage. But they have a number of projects, and Eve is in here. And it's actually from here that you can get more information about Eve itself, including a nice video talking about how some place is running it in their wind farm. I'm going to try and fit one more in here. Yeah. I was so happy. Whoop. I was so happy that the collector bots on their own dug this up. This is from our friends over at Kate's at Home. One drop is in the server, and somebody just pinged me on live chat. What about using Flatcar for the Edge OS? Ian wants to know. Could. I mean, that's another option for sure. Flatcar, it's funny, I had those guys up in another article. I guess that's one of the ones that's not going to make it on the show today. Kinvolk. And so Flatcar Linux is the continuation of CoreOS since CoreOS was put down. So yeah, that's another fine option. This is a reference to Awesome Home Kubernetes. And these are all of the people who have shared their GitOps repos for their home lab Kubernetes clusters, which are running, Flux, and OneDrops is built with Ansible. That's cool. So if you're interested in doing K3s, Kubernetes, whatever, GitOps in a home lab or anywhere else, here are some examples that you can use to work from. Yay! Today's show. Ooh. Okay. Average rating of 4 coffees. That's good. That's good. I forgot, again, I'm supposed to tell all of the YouTube folks what people rate it. I need to make Trufflebot do that because clearly I am unable to remember. Shipwreck. We were talking about WireGuard last week. Here is... Wow. Oh, okay. For some reason I saw that as 2015. Oh, okay. No, it's not 2015. It's 2020, December 15th. Here's how to build a bounce server, basically a relay server for WireGuard if you want to connect 2 areas that are behind what they now call carrier grade NAT. Carrier grade NAT means NAT that you can't screw with, which in my country, well, not my country, but in the country in which I live, my cellular provider does that by like triple natting things. They nat stuff and then they nat it again and then they nat it again and then they rotate all the nats every 12 hours. Anyway, this would bypass that. So I could have a WireGuard server here and a WireGuard server somewhere else and then a relay server in the middle that just basically routes the packets. WireGuard is super cool. It's a complete walkthrough on how to set that up, including using Amazon Lightsail, which will cost you about $3 a month, or you could use any other. You could use a DigitalOcean, Micro Droplet, that's $5 a month, or whatever. And it doesn't just show you how to set it up, but also shows you how to secure it in some pretty ingenious ways, like shutting down the SSH port, configuring the network policy so that. Excuse me, that was a coffee burp. Not shutting down the SSH port, but shutting it down from the outside, making it such that it's interesting. If you shut it down from the outside, your WireGuard better be like rock solid. But removing the network policy so that people can't just bang on it all day long, which is if you can find a way to do that, that's good. But then also doing this cool thing with UDP so that nobody can tell what port your WireGuard server is listening on because everything looks like it's blocked. And then he has a fair bit of snark in here about systemd. Systemd has a nasty habit of delaying logins for 25 to 100 seconds while it waits for some service you never asked for to time out and fail. For me, that's usually the Ubuntu message of the day thing where it's like, here's the updates. Like, yeah, Canonical, it's my server. And then he continues talking about the evil of Snap. And some other stuff. But setting up NF tables, setting up WireGuard, doing all your bouncy stuff, and there you go. And that, my friends, that is the end of today's show. The end. All right. Get back to work. Teleprompter. Teleprompter, no. Oh no. Oh, there it is. Teleprompter, yes. All right. I don't know why the teleprompter decided not to work today. Thank you so much. Oh, I didn't use any of my... I didn't do the tool of the day thing again. See, okay, hang on. Dude, tell me I don't need Trufflebot to handle this. So, Node-RED, whatever, I could just, when I say tool of the day, it can load the thing, play the little thingy so that all this stuff happens. Because really, honestly, having to remember at the end of the show to press that, it's just more than I can do. Not going to do it. Not going to do it. Automate all the things. Bots forever. Where's my subscribe button? There it is. Where is it? Right there. Do that. Join the community site. Community members get early access to the links, the video replay, and other exclusive content. It's free to join, and there are people joining every day. If you have something you'd like for me to consider for the show, you can post it in the community site, or you can post it in the show suggestions site on Discord, and then ping me on Discord or Twitter and make sure that I respond so that I saw it. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you for putting up with this experimentation of Streamlabs OBS. Keep learning. I will see you in the next show. Stay caffeinative.